It's Thursday, October 1st, and this is now on H&N.
I just want to thank all my coworkers for the great career that they've given me, but I mostly want to thank you, our passengers.
It's been a difficult, emotional day for tens of thousands of airline workers facing furloughs.
I don't have a backup plan.
With federal aid to carriers running out and no new COVID relief plan in place.
Governor Ige says a pre-travel testing program for inter-island passengers is a challenge because of a shortage of COVID tests.
Our concern is the number of tests that we currently have available.
New today, a man has been indicted accused of planning a chemical attack on an apartment building on Oahu.
These stories, plus an up-close look at those sharks at Kaimana's, coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon, everyone. Jonathan and Ashley here coming to you from the H&N Digital Center. You're watching This Is Now, and we want to get started with those latest coronavirus numbers.
Health officials say 3 more patients with COVID-19 have died, bringing Hawaii's official death toll to 139. DOH is also reporting 108 new cases today. The county breakdown shows 102 are on Oahu and 6 are on the Big Island. Right now, there are more than 2,000 active cases statewide. Meanwhile, time has run out for some 45,000 airline workers. Many of them are being furloughed or laid off today after talks to extend federal aid programs on Capitol Hill have stalled. Jay Gray has more.
Severe turbulence rattling the airline industry. Furloughs have started for more than 30,000 employees, pilots, flight attendants, ramp workers, ticket agents, office staff, and others, as $25 billion in federal payroll assistance funds run out with no new deal in place.
I'm optimistic as a human being, but as president of the local, I have to be very realistic and think, what are the next steps? We're dealing with people's, their lives.
Congress is debating a new comprehensive COVID relief plan that would include more money for the airlines.
Hopefully, we can find our common ground on this and do so soon.
The airlines forced to make cuts say if that happens, they'll bring employees back. Still, the future is cloudy for those stuck in the middle.
I don't have a backup plan. I'm going to be in the unemployment line like so many other people.
Air travel is down about 70% through the pandemic, and with the virus now surging again in more than 24 states, the flight path for the struggling airlines still isn't clear. Jay Gray, NBC News.
So many hotels and resorts are getting ready to reopen with the return of trans-Pacific travel. Today I went and checked out some of those websites like Orbitz and Expedia to see who was opening up, available for booking. One thing I noticed is a lot of these hotels and resorts aren't really offering any deals or savings that you might expect to lure people in. I wanted to know why, so I asked CBS travel editor Peter Greenberg.
Even though Hawaii is opening up on October 15th, that doesn't mean all the hotels are opening up October 15th. Most of them are the big ones, the big 4- and 5-star hotels, are kind of sequencing in around November 15th, November 20th, and Thanksgiving and Christmas in Hawaii may be just as expensive as it's always been. So be aware of that. And also, if you want to be smart, remember the 2 dead weeks in travel. This year and every year. The week after Thanksgiving. Let me be straight about this. What is Thanksgiving? I'll tell you what it is to me. It's an obligatory dysfunctional family get-together. You got to go. Okay? So, what's the best time to travel? The week after Thanksgiving. Because everybody's recovering from that dysfunctional family get-together. And you own the travel business. Hotels, airlines, when they're sailing cruises, the same thing. Theme parks, the same thing. And the second dead week, it's an obvious one. The week after New Year's, when everybody's simply just recovering. So keep that in mind for Hawaii.
Greenberg also provided this update on when we can expect to see cruise ships sailing again in the U.S.
The fact that they're only extended that no sail order till October 31st does not in any way mean that cruises are going to be leaving in November. In fact, Carnival this morning announced they're canceling all of their November and December cruises that they hadn't already canceled before, and moving them back to next year. There may be 1 or 2 cruises in December to the Galapagos or in the Galapagos or maybe out of Miami. But for all practical purposes, we're dealing with 2021 and maybe not even until the beginning of the second quarter. A lot of those cruises have been delayed till March. So watch this space carefully. Now, it's not stopping the cruise lines from booking those cruises in 2021. And they're having a pretty good time with it because there are such loyal cruisers out there who really love their ships and want to get back.
We're about 2 weeks away from the launch of the state's pre-travel testing program. We're expecting a 12:30 press conference with the state. But as of right now, inter-island travelers are still subject to the 2-week quarantine. Kauai and Maui counties are pushing for new rules and more testing. Ben Gutierrez has the details.
Business leaders have warned against forcing travelers to navigate multiple testing regimes. But it could happen. Hawaii Island is still keeping to the 14-day quarantine. Kauai County Mayor Derek Kawakami wants all travelers to take a COVID test when they land on the Garden Isle. And Maui has a similar plan.
When you're talking Trans-Pacific, we want a pre-test and then 72 hours after they land, after being quarantined or in their bubble resort, another test to show that they're negative.
That's part of the plan that Maui Mayor Mike Victorino was looking at, which is similar to what his counterpart on Kauai is proposing.
This program would require all travelers, Trans-Pacific and inter-island, who wish to avoid a full 14-day quarantine to take a COVID test no sooner than 72 hours after arrival to Kauai.
That's different from the state's travel testing plan, in which Trans-Pacific travelers who test negative before their trip could avoid a 14-day quarantine. But if they want to visit the Garden Isle, they'll have to take a second test and still have to quarantine.
All incoming arrivals would be required to quarantine for a minimum of 3 days after arrival on island. After 3 days, travelers could take a COVID test, and those with a negative test would be exempt from the remainder of their quarantine period.
Inter-island arrivals would also have to undergo the 3-day quarantine and the test to skip the full quarantine period. Kawakami says he's been discussing it with the other mayors. But Honolulu Mayor Kirk Caldwell says Oahu wouldn't be able to do those tests, especially since the bulk of Hawaii visitors are coming to Oahu.
And if we did a second test for all of those folks, the capacity, our testing capacity just is not there to do what needs to be done. And so we have additional challenges that the other counties don't have.
For Maui County, the mayor will still want to test for anyone to avoid quarantine.
If we reduce or modify or even eliminate inter-island quarantine, that tests have to be done before someone comes to Maui County, even if it is from another island.
Any changes to quarantine or testing requirements would require the governor's approval, and he continues to express concerns about straining our supply of tests on travelers.
The challenge is access to tests, and our concern is the number of tests that we currently have available. As you know, our local labs can process between 3,000 and 5,000 tests per day, and we expect to have significantly more travelers who may be arriving here. We continue to look at partners to see if we can get testing locally that can meet the requirements. We would be looking at implementing a similar program for inter-island.
Hundreds of new operators are being added to help the state with about 8,000 pending unemployment claims. The new virtual call center launched yesterday. The state labor director says 200 trained operators will be answering phones from 7:45 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. The department is outsourcing to a mainland company called Maximus Inc. to do the work, but that number will be subsidized with 40% local workers.
So the reason for going with the mainland contractor is they have done this in 13 other states. They have individuals who are up-trained and are able to handle the different calls that should be coming in. Unemployment insurance is a very difficult program.
We simply need more people and more bodies to be able to address these outstanding claims. And I think that's what these new initiatives coupled together will achieve.
In addition, 100 adjudicators will be coming on board in mid-October to decide on the tricky issues that typically hold up claims. If you need help with your unemployment benefits, call 833-901-2272 or 833-901-2275. We also posted those numbers on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
We told you about this yesterday as breaking news right here on This Is Now, and now we have new details about that prominent defense contractor accused of scamming the federal stimulus program out of millions. Here's Rick Daysog.
Federal authorities raided the downtown offices of the Martin Defense Group, a major government contractor. They also arrested its 47-year-old CEO, Martin Cowell, for bank fraud and money laundering.
Martin Cowell received over $12.8 million of Paycheck Protection Program funds for Navitec through fraud.
The U.S. Attorney said $2 million went into Cowell's personal bank accounts. Cowell's company, formerly known as Navitec LLC, is a research and engineering firm with millions of dollars in contracts with the military. According to a criminal complaint, the contractor inflated the number of employees that work for the company and its subsidiaries to get the PPP loan. Feds say the company did not lose a significant amount of business due to the pandemic.
There's no morality among criminals. Nothing is off limits. Today, we are talking about an individual who is extremely greedy to exploit a global pandemic.
In addition to being a big government contractor, the company and its predecessors are also major donors to local and mainland politicians. During the past 2 decades, the company has contributed more than $500,000 to dozens of candidates. The complaint says that Cowell talked about calling in a U.S. senator to get the bank to approve a loan. The feds say Cowell's political clout won't protect him from prosecution.
If you game the system to get money that businesses so desperately need in Hawaii, we will find you, we will expose you, and we will hold you accountable to the fullest extent of the law.
Rick Daysog, Hawaii News Now.
In a statement, Navitec LLC said in part, the government's actions were a complete surprise. As a company, we will address the allegations and have retained legal counsel to review these claims.
New today, a young man was arrested for allegedly planning to blow up a building in Honolulu and to detonate a chemical weapon. Federal officials say 20-year-old Ethan Sandelmeyer purchased materials to make both explosive and chemical bombs, had bomb-making instructions in his possession, and developed an attack plan. He also reportedly visited the building he was targeted in February. It was not identified, but it has about 450 apartment units, several commercial units, and a multi-level grocery store. Sandelmeyer faces life in prison if convicted. A group of child sex assault victims recently took legal action against the institutions that look the other way. We have a report on a group of adult survivors, all men, who are working to overcome their trauma and help others heal. Here's Lynn Kawano.
For men, there aren't a lot of options when it comes to sex assault group therapy. That's why this one, started by a survivor, is growing. Several members spoke with me early this year ahead of social distancing practices and before masks were recommended.
It's part of the process.
A group of men, all from different backgrounds, different professions, from different parts of the country, all with one thing in common.
It's not easy. For me, it's been 36 years since my abuse.
It was either get help or perish.
All of them were sexually abused as children. Boy Scout leaders, family members, school psychiatrists, priests.
And just the topic obviously is a little tough to talk about.
Andre Biscara, a survivor himself, started the men's support group late last year. It quickly grew.
Getting that secret out, I mean, it's such a great burden just to have secrets in our lives that it does start to affect your health, your mental health.
It's hard when you keep it inside because then you are always at least faking somewhat. You have a mask.
I feel like it's really a shield. And then inside, I feel like the boy that was in the tent and in the dark when, you know, the scoutmaster or scout leader took what he wanted. And I've struggled with that a lot, and beginning of last year it just got it got too hard.
Dave Henson is in the military, where support groups he tried were geared for those with PTSD, substance abuse, and sex assault support groups were for women. The men's group allowed him to openly discuss his struggles.
My oldest son wanted to join the Boy Scouts, and we let him while being overly monitored. But we did let him go because I was trying not to let my experiences prevent him from being able to experience things. But I spiraled pretty bad.
Instead of having a coach for my daughter's soccer team, I coached the soccer team. You know, my daughter didn't do sleepovers, didn't understand why. That I should realize that not everyone's that way. And I know not everyone's that way, but I see everyone that way.
I think being in a group and being able to see yourself in other people's stories and understand exactly what they're going through is, I mean, for a lot of us, the first time we can actually feel that, hey, I'm not crazy.
While their stories are similar, how they cope varies.
I went to the emergency room a couple of times for suicidal ideations, and at that point I realized that I love my life, I love my wife, I love my children, and I want to continue to experience the joy that they bring me, so I had to get help.
That first meeting, I remember driving by, like back and forth, thinking, I'll just go home now. I'll just go home now. Oh no, I should go. I'll go home now. But they went, and I'm very happy that I did. So I spent 30 some years trying to hide that. And then I go into a group where all of a sudden, everything I've been hiding, I walk in the door and everyone knows.
And if you talk to friends or family, it's sometimes a lot for them to hold on to tell them, and then you have to worry about that relationship.
Because of the pandemic, the support group is now meeting online, which has allowed for a more global reach, bringing in survivors from Japan and others on the mainland. We have more information on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Chrissy Teigen and John Legend have announced they lost their baby. The model and TV personality was hospitalized in Los Angeles on Sunday after revealing she has been on bed rest and bleeding for weeks. The couple also revealed that they had already begun calling the baby Jack. Teigen wrote on social media, quote, "To our Jack, I'm sorry that the first few moments of your life were met with so many complications that we couldn't give you the home you needed to survive."
A sunrise ceremony this morning marked 3 years since the deadly mass shooting in Las Vegas. Clark County Sheriff told a small crowd that had gathered the death toll from the shooting has been increased to 60. 2 additional people have passed away from injuries suffered when a gunman opened fire on a music festival crowd on October 1st, 2017.
Today we remember and honor everyone involved that helped us get through those tragic times. The first responders, the frontline healthcare workers, the people who volunteered and brought food, brought water, tried to help our first responders and our medical professionals as we got through it.
The heroic actions and lives lost that night will never be forgotten. This year's remembrance is smaller, unfortunately, due to the unprecedented impacts of COVID-19. 3 years have passed since I stood before you and the public and spoke about the worst human loss in the community and the United States has ever known at the hands of a single suspect. The thoughts of that tragic night and its aftermath still bring back painful emotions. The shock and the confusion. It does not fade from one's memory.
I want to switch gears here now just a bit here on This Is Now. We've been monitoring chances of severe weather on the Big Island. Let's turn it over to Billy V, who's in for Guy with more.
Let's give you a look at the forecast. There are 3 things that we are watching for you. We'll go through them one at a time. First of all, we're talking about Hawaii Island. There has been a small disturbance just to the east side of Hawaii Island. That's meant rain showers and some thunderstorms over there. And they've had rain showers that you've seen over there on Hawaii Island. And that's going to stay right around Hawaii Island, also going to move north. Possibly Maui County may see some of that. So we're watching that carefully. And as you can see here, look at Hilo in the early morning morning hours, you can see some of those lightning strikes firing off over there on the east side of Hawaii Island. Second thing that we're watching is the surf, especially over on the North Shore. 9 to 12 feet surf, just under advisory levels there. That's on the way down. There will be another swell that'll be coming up also for the south-facing shores later on this week. Right now, that's flat to 2 and a slow decline. UV index is at 10. Third thing that we are watching out in the waters for you in the eastern Pacific, for the most part quiet, except for we have one large storm, and that would be Hurricane Marie. Let's go ahead and give you more details on that right now. Once again, Hurricane Marie, 105 miles per hour, moving west-northwesterly at 17 miles per hour. Currently a Category 2, but that's going to power up to a Category 4, and it's going to be strong for a little bit, and then it's going to start to lose the strength as it moves up towards the north here. What effects will that have in Hawaii? There's going to be probably a swell action that we'll see next week as that wave energy starts to move in our direction. The other thing is that it could cut off our trade winds. We're kind of waiting to see what happens. 7-day outlook as far as your weather goes starts off with, well, Big Island thunderstorms. Thursday, possibly Friday. For the rest of the state, it's going to be mostly sunny skies. Windward and Mauka showers drifting leeward at times, but the winds will be light and the temperatures will be warm. Get the latest online on your mobile device and, of course, at hawaiinewsnow.com.
Thank you, Billy. A lot of people have been posting about this next story. We're talking about the sharks at Kaimana's. Have you seen them yet?
Oh yeah, it's a pretty cool video.
Yeah, this video is amazing. It's underwater footage from Vanessa Foster. It's there at Kaimana Beach. There's been that school of fish that have been feeding there for weeks now. So if you're heading out there, if there's not signposted, I would still check with the lifeguards. Look at that bait ball that those sharks are just going for. Vanessa said when she was in the water, there was about 4 sharks there yesterday.
I don't know if I would go in the water.
No way. Nope. Nope.
Yeah, no, I'll pass. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has announced his new comedy show is officially in production. Young Rock is set to premiere on NBC sometime in 2021, and the show follows the actor's life from childhood to his early college days of playing football at the University of Miami.
That looks good.
Yeah.
It's called Young Rock?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Like Young Sheldon. All right, you guys remember the band AC/DC? Well, they're making a comeback as well. New album in the works. Well, at least for 5 of them will take part in this. The last time they did an album, it wasn't too long ago, back in 2014. There's no other details given on when this next album will come out, but we're told it's called PWR Up. Okay.
All right, and the Mountain West Conference has announced its shortened 8-game schedule for the 2020 football season, with the Rainbow Warriors playing 4 games at home and 4 on the road. The schedule is still subject to the approval of state and county officials, but the Bows will open the season with consecutive away games at Fresno State and Wyoming before making their 2020 home debut against New Mexico on November 7th.
Exciting stuff there.
And time for some good news, you guys. An artist makes a statement using 31 tons of carrots. Jeremy Roth has more on today's Good News Now segment.
Don't judge me, but when watching this video of someone deliberately dumping 31 tons of carrots into a city street, you just can't help but ask, what's up, Doc? The bizarre display was an art installation to highlight the wasting of food called grounding. It was organized by University of London student artist Rafael Perez Evans. Evans says the work explores the tensions and visibility between the rural and the city, and he says grounding is meant to electrically reconnect you to the earth. The work had mixed reactions, with some concerned about the artist wasting food, but Evans says the carrots were rejected by supermarkets, and he planned to donate them to farms as animal feed following the installation. A quintet of foul-mouthed fowls ran afoul of zoo officials when they wouldn't stop cursing at guests. 5 feisty parrots had to be removed from view at the UK's Lincolnshire Wildlife Park after launching a potty-mouthed parrot tirade at visitors and staff just days after arriving at the park. What did they say, you asked? Oh, you know, stuff like, and my personal favorite, I know, right? They really flew off the handle. This isn't the first time a parrot at the park has made headlines. Lincolnshire is also home to Chico, the parrot that belts Beyoncé beautifully. But it seems like these birds aren't interested in fame. They seem to be quite happy with infamy. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
I'd take the Beyonce bird, but I'd end up with the other one, for sure.
Yeah, those would be our parrots.
That's going to do it for This Is Now. Don't forget, Josh Green press conference coming up in just a minute on our H&N digital platforms.
See ya.